Hello all, good morning or good evening. Firstly, thank you for this opportunity to have me here to present my SPF example to manage Office 365 groups with SharePoint framework. Myself, Nanddeep Nachan, and I'm from Pune, India, and I have been working with SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure for many years. And I have developed this sample along with my sister, Smita Nachan, who is also working on SharePoint for many years now. Thank you for this opportunity so that we siblings got a chance to work on one sample. So here are some social handles to get connected with us. So the sample I'm going to demonstrate today is about managing your Office 365 groups with SharePoint framework. The sample is available in the PNP Git repository at this particular location, along with all of the documentation, prerequisites, and instructions on how to start using this sample. So this particular sample is developed using React.js and with SPFX drop version 1.9.1, which was the latest available at the time of development of this sample. Why do we have this sample and what are the driving factors for it? So everyone is aware that Office 365 Groups is the foundational membership service that drives all teamwork across Microsoft 365. So once we are part of Office 365 Group, then we can get the benefits of group connected services like shared Outlook, shared calendar, SharePoint site, Power BI, Yammer, Planner, and Teams. During this demo, I'm going to use two users. One is a global administrator, which is here, and the other user which I'm going to use is just the SharePoint administrator. So for example, if you want to see all of the groups which are available in our tenant, we can anytime come to these groups and see all those groups. That's great, but is there any way to see all of the Office 365 groups in a tenant for other users? So the answer is yes, but partially. So for example, on this particular user, if I go to Outlook and click people here, so I will be able to see all of the groups where I'm a member or I'm an owner. But still, there might be some other groups exist in my organization which I do not manage, or they are private groups, so which I might be interested to join. So then how can we locate all those groups and how can we join them? So this particular SPFX solution goes beyond that limitation and provides the functionality using Microsoft Graph APIs. So most of the key features with these samples is like we can list all public as well as private groups with some basic information like name, description, logo, and the privacy, of course, public or private. And then we can search for the groups. If you have multiple groups being created in your organization, you can quickly search and go to the group. And then we can join or leave the group from our SPFX web part, as well as we can join a private group with the approval of group administrator, and this is developed using Power Automate flow. And then even we can manage the groups for administrators, and then we can browse the Microsoft team associated with that particular group. And then lastly, we can set up a new group. So there are few functionalities and some user roles associated with this sample. So for example, if you are in a public group and you own a owner role, in that case, you can manage the group. If the group visibility is public and you are a member, then the option for you will be to leave the group. If you are not part of that group, then you will be able to join the group. For example, if the group visibility is private and you are the owner of that group, again, you will be able to manage that group. If you are a member, then you will be able to leave the group. And if the group visibility is private and you are not part of that group, then you will be able to request to join that particular group. So we will see that in a demo. So for this purpose, I have my SharePoint page set up here, which is hosting my web part. So before I go into the demo, I will probably edit this particular web part and go to the property pane of this particular web part. So here we have this flow URL, which is responsible for having the flow being triggered for joining the private groups. So I will discard this change. Okay. So let's go through the one by one functionalities. So here is a web part which lists out all of the groups. So at least as of now, I have around 25 to 30 groups created. So it is listing all those with a scrollable panel. And then from here, we can filter the groups based on name. So for example, I can type the name or type the characters, and it will start to filter out the groups based on the name of that particular group. The second functionality is, for example, if you are part of that particular group, you are admin of that public group, then here we have option to manage the group. So once you click manage group, it will take you to the Office 365 site from where you will be able to see all of the groups, and then you can search the group from here and you can manage the settings. So for example, you can select the group and you can check the members and other things. So there is no direct API available by which we can directly go to that particular group setting, but at least from here it will make you redirect to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, where we have listing of all of the groups. We can locate our group and start managing it. The third thing is we can join the public group. So for example, right now we have okay, before, yeah. So we have this group called as Rock and Roll, which is a public group, but right now I'm not part of that particular group. So I can just click this particular icon and it will help me to join that particular group. Once I am joined to this particular group, again I can click this icon and I can leave this particular group. So this is very much easy for public groups. But now that maybe a complex thing like how can we join a private group? So right now for this particular example, I have one group here called as Fabulous 5, to which this particular user, this admin user is admin. He can manage this group. On the other hand, I also have another user here, which is just the SharePoint admin, but he don't have access to this particular group called as Fabulous 5. So here the option is we can request to join this particular group. So I will click on this particular icon. It says that request has been sent to the group owners. So I will again come back to my admin account and I will go to Outlook. So if the trigger or the flow goes well, I should be able to see one email. Okay, so here it is. Request to join the private group. So here the automated email will come, which will say that this particular user want to join your group. And in that case, you can take two actions: approve or reject. So probably I will approve this. I will say approved and submit. So again, the flow will trigger, which will detect that this particular request has been approved, and then the user will be able to part of that particular group. So again, to this particular user, I will go to the Outlook, and here we can see the email has triggered that you have been added to this particular group and your request is approved. So now if I can refresh this particular window, in that case, again, if I scroll back to Fabulous 5, now I can see that I have joined this particular private group. And from here, again, I can leave the group if needed. Again, one more thing is if you are a member or administrator of that particular group, here is a link by which you will be able to navigate to your SharePoint site and manage the things from there. So yeah, okay. One more thing which I forgot to mention was about creating the new group. So down under here, we have an option to create a new group. Once we click this, we again have another React component which will handle the creation of new group. So maybe here I will call PNP demo. I will have some small description here, and then I will keep the visibility as public. In the owner, I will maybe type the admin. And again, in the member, I will type the same user, which is the one by which we are creating this particular group. So once I click submit, the group will get created. Probably I will come back to this particular user to show you that the group has been created. Okay. Now if I try to search for that particular group, the group is here. Okay. So this way we can do the multiple functionalities with the groups which are available to us. So probably now I will move to the code. So during this code walkthrough, we have this SPFX solution, and we have the Power Automate Flow templates here, which probably you can use in your tenant as one of the template to get started. And again, we have models here to represent the groups or the team channels. Oh, I just come to know that I forgot to mention one functionality. So for example, if your group is connected to the team, in that case, you will be able to see the Teams icon in front of it. Once you click that icon, you will be taken to that particular team. So again, there is an option whether you want to open that in a Microsoft team or use the web app. So from here, we will be able to navigate to our team. So, okay, going back to the code, we have services here, which are kind of an extensible services to help us with create the group, join the group, or as well as leave the group. So probably I can walk you through this code first. So we have first method called as get groups, and we have the REST API or the Graph API here to get all of the groups. And by this way, we are able to get all of the groups even though you are not part of that particular group. So this will return us all of the group inside your tenant. And again, for that, we have some permissions here. We have this permission as application permissions, using which we are able to get all of those groups. And then there is one more method called as get my member groups, which is again using the Graph API to get the groups where this particular user is a member of. Then thirdly, we have a method called as get my owner groups. So as like getting the member groups, we don't have direct API or Graph API available to get all the groups where I am the owner, but as an alternative, we can use this particular REST API /me/owned object, and then we can filter onto the only group. So we can use this particular Graph API to get the groups where this particular user is a owner. And then we have one more method to add a member to the groups. So whenever someone requests to join the group, we are calling this particular REST API, the post method, to add that particular user to the group. And then we have remove member. In that case, we are again using the REST API to get a reference of that user using the user ID, and then we are removing that particular user. Then lastly, we have request to join private group, which is dependent onto the Microsoft Flow or Power Automate. So here we are composing the body in which we are passing the group ID, name, URL, name of the requester, and email of the requester who wants to join your private group. And once it is here, we are again calling the Graph, not Graph API. We are calling that particular Microsoft Flow so that we can trigger that Microsoft Flow from the Flow URL, which is in the properties of our web part. And this flow will take care of joining the group on behalf of that particular user. And then we have a few supporting methods like get the group link, which is being used here to show the link to the particular group. And then we have get group thumbnail, which will just show the thumbnail of your group if you have set. And lastly, we have a method to create the group, which is responsible to create a new group inside Office 365. So based on the values which have been provided into the form, we can again post the Graph API to get this group created. Okay. So yeah, again, to get the Teams, we have this particular get Teams channel, so that once you click onto the Teams icon, it will take you to the first channel inside your team. Okay, so that was about the extensible service, and onto the React component, mainly we have three components, group list, news group, and Office 365 groups manager. So this is the entry point to our web part. And then we have a group listing here, and then we have a button to create a new group. And when we are loading this particular component, we are making a call to get groups, which is getting all of the groups where I'm a owner, where I'm a member, as well as all of the groups available inside Office 365 tenant. And then we are passing all that information to our other React component, which is group list. So this group list can then use this information to render the particular information for that particular group. So for example, here we are using this list, and mostly we are handling all of the UI component using this on render cell. So if I directly move to on render cell, here we are showing all of the information based on the visibility of that particular group. If it is connected to the teams based on the visibility as well as icon. If the user role is a member, in that case, we are showing the icon to leave the group. If the group visibility is public and we don't have any user role, in that case, we are asking the user to join the group. And the same way, if the user or the group visibility is private, in that case, we are asking the user to request to join that particular group. So at least this is the main method wherein we are handling the visibility of all the elements by which we will be able to show the information about the group, and we can ask whether to leave or join that particular group. And then lastly we have new group, which is very much simple. We just have a few controls here to get the information about the group to be created, and then we are calling the method from the extensible service to get that group created. One thing I want to mention here is about the flow that has been created here. So for that, probably I will move to the flow. So if I go to the Power Automate flow, and if I go to my flows, this is the flow which is responsible to join the or allow the user to join the private group. So here, whenever the HTTP request is being received from an SPFX web part to join the group, we are composing that particular request. And then again, we are getting the application ID, directory ID, and secret from the app registration, which we created inside Azure. So probably even I can show you that very quickly. So if I go to show all and then to the Azure Active Directory. So in the Azure Active Directory, we have this app registration. So inside this app registration, we have registered this app, and to this app, we have given the API permissions so that it can read the group information, as well as it will help to add the user to the group. And again, we have certificates and secrets. So from here, we can create a new secret for 1 year, 2 year, or never expire. And this particular values for the application ID, directory ID, and secret, we are adding to these variables, which we will use later. And once we are here, then we are posting the graph API so that we can get the owners for that particular group. And once we get the JSON from it, we pass that particular JSON to retrieve all of the emails for those particular users. And once we get all the emails, we send the approval request to those admins so that the user will be able to join this particular group. And based on the outcome of that particular email, whether it is approved or rejected, if it is approved, then we are adding that particular member to the group. If it is rejected, we are simply sending out an email saying that your request has been declined. So this is how this solution is developed. And then I have a few references here, which probably you can use or just refer on how this component has been developed. Okay, so with that, thank you for having the opportunity to demo this web part.
Really great stuff, Nanddeep. One thing what maybe I missed it, but the controls, you're using the PnP SPFX controls for the people picker and all of that? Wasn't it
yes.
so? Yeah.
Yes, I'm using same thing.
Because I saw this one and that just pinpointing for those who are not super familiar. So this is the only thing what you need to do. You don't have to worry about where the people are coming from and do the queries and anything. That's it. You just define the properties and things work. And I think that's a brilliant example of the controls. So
yeah. Okay, thank you.